Hey, how about you, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of the Auburn Live Recruiting Show. I am your host, Jeffrey Lee, Senior Recruiting Editor of Auburn Live on 3. If you're not a member of that site, you're absolutely missing out, folks. You probably think the guys, the coaches on the road this week, you might think that they're going to another college to coach. Did you guys catch any of this?
I did not.
No.
On Twitter, I was like, yeah, Ron Roberts headed to Mississippi. Like, oh, my God. He's leaving. That didn't last long. Oh, my God. Yeah. It's a terrible way of wording it, Jeffrey Lee. It's a terrible way of wording it. The dude's using a recruiting graphic of him going to War Eagle, headed to Mississippi. Anyways, don't be like those guys. Be an informed fan. Join Auburn Live on 3 right now. $29.99 until September. Whew. So you do not make a fool of yourself like some folks did.
Yeah.
No apologies. Hey, all right, folks, we've got some things to talk about this week. The closing of the transfer portal, some 2024 offers. 2024 is coming in again next weekend for a big junior day. To help me discuss it all with you is Mr. Jhead, Mr. Cole Pinkston, and Mr. Keith Niebuhr, live in his new Ford Bronco.
Lightly used.
Ford Bronco. How about you, fellas? looks like me and Jhead we're up in the press box at the hair.
Yeah, you're right, man.
Actually, you guys have better views than the press box. So I don't think you're actually in it.
Oh my goodness! Hey, before we get started, I heard a bunch of you guys before we started recording. We were looking for a house in or around Auburn, Opelika, in Lee County. You didn't know where to turn. I've got it for you guys. Jessica Andrus with eXp Realty, 334-704-4442. Residential investment properties, sell your house. She can do it all, folks. 5-star realtor Jessica Andrus with eXp Realty. Give her a call, 334-704-4442. Tell her we sent you. Help me out. All right, folks. So January 18th is come and gone. That is the deadline for entering the portal through that 45-day window that began back December the 5th, I believe. It is over. So is the last day to add classes at Auburn University for the spring semester. That has come and gone. That was Wednesday as well. They coincided. It's over. Both of them. Done. Deal. Move on. So now that allows us to look and see with finality what Auburn did in this first window. The second window opens in May 1st to the 15th. That is your last opportunity to find a new home. If not, you'll have to wait till after the season. Auburn will probably do some more work in the May period. Excuse me. We'll get to that. But first, let's look back at the 45-day window that Auburn did such a 180 from a year ago. Such a 180 from a year ago. Guys, I counted 27 official visits that Auburn used for transfers. Of those 27, 12 of them, nearly half, are enrolled at Auburn for spring semester. Keith, you look like you're just chomping at the bit.
Yeah, I bought this new Gatorade gum.
Oh yeah,
it's supposed to give you all kinds of energy.
Yeah, man, I heard that. It's new. It's coming out in 1986.
Yeah. Whatever. Anyway,
Gator Collective. You know what I mean? Maybe they need to make a little extra money these days.
Yeah. Well,
my Gatorade.
I think there's two ways of looking at it.
Okay.
With the transfer portal, not the gum. Overall, how did they address all their needs? C+. But the guys they got, B+, A-. They just have a few more needs. They got to fill.
Why such a low grade?
Well, no, that's a good grade. There's incompletes. QB. I mean, if you're looking for a QB and you don't pick a QB, you can't get an A.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I got you.
Right. So the guys they've got, A-, B+, very good. They just have a few more needs. I mean, we've talked about this, Jeff, Jhead, Cole. Got it. The QB room. Now they're going to know more after spring practice, obviously. I mean, Holden Gerner, Robbie Ashford, these guys may surprise the hell out of them, and they may think, okay, maybe we just need a depth piece now out of the portal, or they may say, got to go get a guy that's going to push for the starting job. So in other words,
we may need two.
They still have needs. Edge rusher, probably still one more offensive lineman or two, and another defensive lineman. But look, the guys they've got, could you have asked for much more? I mean, three probable starters on the offensive line. That's incredible. Okay. A tight end that fits exactly what you do, exactly what you want. A running back that can kind of be a jack of all trades and help you in the special teams. Those hidden yardage, the yards we never talk about that really add up over the course of a big game. 10, 15 yards on a return here or there. And you just go down the line, defensive line. They finally have some depth, right? And maybe not just depth, guys that all three of the guys they picked up could be starters. So love what they got, but let's not kid ourselves. They still got some more needs to fill.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Cole, what you thinking?
Man, I'm kind of with Keith. I mean, I love a lot of these additions. I don't see anybody. I'll just be honest. Last year, it felt like they were picking up bodies just because they needed some extra depth, and I don't think this is that. I think this is guys that are going to contribute. I don't see a guy on this list of the 12 that's not going to contribute. I really don't. All these guys are going to be, two deep players like we've talked about. Some of them might be, bring some star power to the defense, to the offense. I've gone through and done some film on all these guys, Justin Rogers, Dylan Wade, Brian Battie. All these guys are they were some of the top players where they were at. They're coming into Auburn now. So that's a huge, huge win to me.
Jhead, I got a question for you, man. We talked about this, I think, on the call-in show Sunday. I think we all went through and talked about starters and two deep and stuff like that. But, man, it'd be easier. Somebody asked me on the corner today, the message board, it would be easier to say, who don't you expect to start? And of course, you can't start three defensive tackles, so you got to think one of those guys is not. But, I mean, maybe when it comes down to snaps, like how many snaps are these guys going to get? Are they going to get equal to the starters or pretty damn close? Are they going to be big-time contributors? I mean, who don't you see making a big-time contribution in 2023?
With what we lost moving into this next season and the needs that we have, I mean, I think you're talking each guy is probably looking at 300-plus snaps that we added in this class as of right now. I think that's probably what you're looking at, unless Gunnar Britton potentially gets beat out at offensive tackle with that, with Miller. Say he were to beat him out, obviously as a backup offensive lineman, you're probably not going to get that many snaps. But if everything stays, if everything's chalk, then you're talking about guys who are going to be 300-plus snap guys, two deep guys, and heavy rotation players at each and every spot that we pick someone up. And I tend to agree with Keith and with Cole. I'm probably a little bit easier grader in that I think this class is about a B right now, but it's incomplete because quarterback, you need somebody to be able to push Robbie at a minimum. Maximum, you have another starter that you're bringing in to compete for that position because quarterback play has to improve. If the team's going to improve, the quarterback position has to get better, whether that's development inside your program or you bring an exterior piece in. I also think that interior offensive line, to me, you need one more player. It's about getting the top 8. Right now, you've got about 7 that I feel really comfortable with. I don't think you have 8 or 9, but we'll see where we stand coming out of spring training and then obviously on the edge. That's the biggest piece to me, and I just don't know, with it being such a premier position, that's going to be really hard to find a difference maker. But can you find a guy with the traits to be a pass rusher? Can they give you something off the edge to go along with McAllister? Can you develop Dylan Brooks? Are some of these young guys going to be able to play right away in Keldrick Falk? Those are things you just don't know. But spring, as Keith has said multiple times over, that's going to give us a clearer picture of exactly what you need moving forward. But you can't argue with the 12 pieces they added. Each one of these guys brings something good and different to the rooms that they're being added to, whether it's defensive tackle and you're helping shore up the run fits, whether it's linebacker and you're bringing physicality, wide receiver, you're bringing size, tight end, it's a fit and a flex Y. I mean, we just, you got hits at every position. And you had to in this portal session, right? Like if you look back to the last year's portal, the January portals where we got probably 4 difference makers, in my opinion. And those 4 difference makers were Robbie Ashford, Jason Jones, and our starting cornerback, DJ
James.
Coy Moore was the only difference maker, in my opinion, that we truly added in the spring window. So that the depth is a little bit better in this January portal session. They nailed it. Now can they go get those other pieces? I think so, but we'll have to wait and see. And this is where the tampering portal starts again. I'm not saying Auburn's doing that, but that's just kind of the feel. This is where the tampering portal starts and the assessment of needs.
Go back to last year. Two of the big pickups were Jalen Worsham and Eugene Asante. Cole in his write-ups made Worsham sound like the next John Stallworth and made Asante sound like Lawrence Taylor. No, I'm kidding. I'm just
Easy.
I've been busting Cole's chops about I'm totally kidding there. But those were two of the big pickups, right? They brought in a linebacker. Yeah. Well, Jalen Worsham did not start at his previous school, Miami. And Eugene Asante had been a starter at North Carolina, but lost his job. So these were big pickups last year for Auburn, guys that weren't even starting at their current teams. And there's a guy that was on the Miami staff that ended up working at another school, went from the ACC to a non-Power 5 school. And I asked him later on about Jalen Worsham, who obviously we all like personally. And I said, well, would you have taken him to the Group of 5 school that you work at now? And he said no. And he had worked with him. He'd coached with them at Miami and helped coach him at Miami. And so now Asante, I talked to people in North Carolina. They thought, okay, he's got some potential. He lost his starting job because he got hurt, all that. But they weren't starters. And all of a sudden, these are big pickups. Now, flash forward to now, the 12 guys they had, were any one of those guys not starters last year?
The wide receiver.
Okay. Nick Martiner.
Nick Martiner. He was not a starter, heavy rotation player.
Was McAllister a starter? I'm not sure if he was a full-time starter. Rotation guy too.
Well, definitely a significant contributor on that team. We know that.
Yeah.
So again, Jalen Worsham was not a contributor at Miami, and this isn't to pick on him. And Asante really had kind of fallen down the charts at North Carolina, and they were hailed as big pickups. And it just shows you what, I hate to use the cliche, what a difference a year makes, but there weren't anybody like those two guys in this group of 12, were there?
No.
Where you were just totally guessing? You're totally guessing.
Where you're signing them off of potential and not.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what these guys can do.
Yeah.
You could maybe say that for DeMario Tolan because he didn't.
Well, that's true. That's true. But he also, go ahead, Cole, finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No, he was starting to break in a lot as a freshman, and that's always a good sign, especially because LSU's linebackers are pretty good. So that's what you know about him. You just don't have a lot of snaps to watch of him to say, I know exactly what he brings.
But you had other people after him, okay? I'm not sure you had other people after those other guys that we mentioned. So just what they did on the offensive line. Now we got to see what these guys can do against SEC competition, week in and week out. All three of them are from Group of 5 programs. But Tulsa and Western Kentucky, Jhead, correct me if I'm wrong, both are known for their offenses, right?
Right.
So those guys are used to scoring points. East Carolina, I've kind of lost track with the last couple of years. Always competitive, I do know that. So, with East Carolina, the Avery Jones kid, Jeffrey and I talked about this on Inside the 20. Brett Bielema doesn't generally. One thing he knows is offensive lineman, right?
Yeah.
Right? And you know what I mean. And he was committed to Illinois before flipping to Auburn. So, for each of these guys, you don't have to grasp at straws. You don't have to guess as to why and how they can help. It's pretty obvious why and how they can help, and that's a good thing.
Keith, you said C+ for the guys for this 12, this dozen. How what would your grade be had Auburn landed a Grayson McCall or a Devin Leary?
Oh my God, a B+. Because your biggest 3 need. Well, you had a lot of big needs. Wow, quarterback, O-line, D-line, edge, linebacker. Man, you had a lot of big needs. Holy cow. You didn't have a huge need at tight end. Yeah, you didn't have a huge need at tight end, I don't think. But maybe they did based on what Hugh likes to use at tight ends relative to what Harsin and Gus like to use. So, I mean, it's not that I'm only giving them that grade and up to B- because they still have needs. But McCall gets you, either one of those QBs gets you right to B+. I mean, would you agree? I mean, you can't give it an A right now overall. You can give the guys they have, though, an A.
I like your – where'd you go? There you are. I like how you're doing it. I like the overall grade, but zoning in on the guys that they did get. As you said, all
Yeah.
of those guys. It's hard to
I
look
mean-
at that group and not go, somewhere along in that A spectrum.
And
Yeah.
go ahead, Keith. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
didn't.
go ahead. Nope, you're up.
I was going to say, and even all right, with a guy like Nick Martiner, who wasn't a starter last year for Cincinnati, Marcus Davis has used this guy before. He knows what he's capable of. He's taking him off of that known product of, hey, he adds a trait to my room that I don't necessarily have right now. And whether he's a starter or a heavy rotation player is kind of irrelevant because he knows how to utilize him. Same with Dylan Wade and the relationship that he has with Auburn's offensive coordinator. He knows exactly what that kid's capable of. He wouldn't bring him to Auburn if he didn't think he was capable of being a starter and a potential right or left tackle in this league. So invaluable that you have people on this staff that are knowledgeable of what these kids are capable of. I really like that aspect of it.
And I think we've talked about this before too, that, you wonder who would have followed had they have gotten a McCall or a Leary early on there. Would you have a few more receivers? But I know not a ton of guys came out in the spring last year, but a lot more guys came out in the winter this year than last year, and I expect there to be a lot more guys to come out in the spring than last year. I mean, this was just the Wild West, these 45 days or whatever it was. I think there's still going to be some good players come out in the spring. There were too many coaching changes. There were too many – a receiver may say, man, I've got no quarterback throwing the ball to me. Let me see who's got some potential out there. And,
wouldn't that have been fun just to see what if Auburn does get that Grayson McCall that first weekend? Does Auburn get one more of Ra White, Dante Thornton, Bryson Green? Do one of those guys say, "Hey, I'm in"? We'll never know.
And I'll tell you one other thing. On the spring window, it's condensed now, right? So last year was a slow trickle. So you had guys kind of getting into the portal all the way up through spring practice. Now it's consolidated to a 15-day period. So you're going to have, like you said, Keith, it's going to be an explosion when that window opens post-spring. And all these kids that would have been a slow trickle, well, now it's going to come out all at one time. And Auburn's going to be on a little bit more of a level playing field because potentially you get your quarterback and or Robbie shows enough in spring to be enticing to some of these other guys that may be entering the portal.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna see like a guy like a Walker Howard, the quarterback who transferred from LSU to Ole Miss. He just entered the portal last week. You're not going to see that. I mean, guys aren't going to be. They're going to get right in it, I think, and they're going to know once spring practice is going to be fresh on their minds. What worked, what didn't work. Do I like my new coach? Do I not like my new coach? Am I sick of my old coach? Do I have anybody to throw to? Do I have anybody to get me the ball? And I do think that Auburn's success overall in the portal probably will be an eye-opener, something they can sell to other guys. Like, hey, guys, we're going to be competitive right now, and you and two other pieces, and we're looking at 9 wins or more, that kind of thing. So I think they're going to have less of a leap of faith to sell after spring practice than they did a few weeks ago. I mean, we were all wondering, are any of these people going to know Hugh Freeze? And man, I mean, I guess
Marcus
they do.
Davis,
I guess they do. Yeah. Jake Thornton's a young guy. Now he's got the fact that Ole Miss had one of the leading rushing offenses in the country last year, and he worked at Alabama, I believe, before that. Philip Montgomery's got a great track record, but they're connecting with people, be it high school or transfer. They're clearly connecting with people. I don't think there's any doubt about that, and I expect that to continue.
I'll tell you an underrated part of this: bringing in 12 guys that all can play. They're going to contribute in the spring. Players and coaches, they kind of look at spring and you go, it just feels it's obviously important for everybody that's there, but it feels a little bit incomplete because your full team's not there, and that's normal for anybody. You still got people to add after spring, and it's different now in the portal era. But, having all these guys, 12 more guys that can contribute, plus a lot of incoming freshmen that could contribute as well, it makes spring feel a little bit more meaningful to those guys. I mean, I've been through something like that, and I know sometimes you see guys playing a position where you go, okay, he's probably not going to be there during the season.
Mm-hmm.
He's having to fill in right now. That's how this is going. Well, now you're looking at some of these positions. Obviously, quarterback, you're not sure, but all these other positions that you help fill out, you're going, those are probably the guys that are going to be there full term. So that's a big piece.
Going to be one of the most intriguing springs in a while. I mean, new coaching staff, new offense, new offensive terminology, whole new offensive line, new defense, a lot of new defensive parts. I mean, there's a lot of newness out there is going to be, and that means the staff's going to have its work cut out. There's no doubt, but they're going to have a much clearer picture of their biggest needs after that, and the word will percolate out, right? Yeah. That hey, Auburn's looking for this or looking for that, and you know what? When they're on the road, these couple of weeks, kind of one of the unknown benefits of this is they're meeting a lot of coaches who have guys at colleges right now, and they're talking to those guys. Boy, if we could just find one more cornerback. The word miraculously seems to always get out, doesn't it? You know,
it does.
So if I was them, I'd go to the high school of like the top 10 potential QBs that they think are going into the portal after spring. I would have been at all their high schools this week. Oh, you don't have anybody? Who cares, man? I came to see you. You know, by the way, you know, I'll tell you what, if we had a guy like Joe Jones at quarterback now, I mean, you know, might be unstoppable. I mean, but they know one thing is pretty clear. We never got, and Jeffrey and I and Jhead and Cole, I think you weren't in the business yet, but you were tracking this closely. And Jhead, I know you were tracking it. Jeffrey and I saw red flags within 10 days of Brian Harsin being hired. Red flags already on the recruiting trail. People weren't connecting. The Trevin Wallace situation where one coach would call him during the day and another coach would call him later, one from the old staff, one from the new staff, and they hadn't talked and he didn't have any relationship with the head coach. We saw all these red flags. Man, we ain't seeing many red flags right now.
None.
You know, they're keeping stuff quiet too. Don't get me wrong, but we're not seeing any glaring, oh my God, what are they doing? Right. You know, any of that. And God, we saw a lot of that early on with, you hate to pile on the guy, but there was not making phone calls to guys that had just signed. Remember that all those guys signed when Steele was the interim coach, and they only called one of them within the first like 10, 12 days. One. These guys already signed. They didn't even get to talk, you know, things like that. But just last year, remember, when this January recruiting window started, Jeffrey and I were talking about this. Harsin didn't go out the first week. He went out the following Wednesday for the first time, I believe, is what it was. Mm-hmm. So it's like a 5 days. He just – how many schools do you think Hugh Freeze has been to as of Wednesday yesterday? How many had he been to from the previous week? The first day he could get on the road Friday morning, he was at Little Rock Central in Arkansas to see their top – what we think is maybe their top QB target, Walker White.
I bet you he's been to 50. I mean, he hit 7 one day. He's been in Georgia. He's been in Mississippi. He's been in Arkansas. He's been in Alabama. Those 4 states we know he's been in already. And what's today? Thursday. We're recording on Thursday, by the way. Hey, let me clarify something real quick.
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
So these kids, these college athletes, they can say at any point, "Hey, I'm entering the transfer portal." However, they cannot be contacted until they're officially in. They can't officially go in until May the 1st if they're not in by last Wednesday at midnight.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they can, just like some of these guys prior to the opening of the December window, they can make their intention known, like, hey, I'm jumping into the portal. But should contact happen at that point, that would technically be considered tampering by the NCAA's definition.
Okay. So nothing official. No visits unless you're already in the portal as of January the 18th at midnight.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So we've looked back at the portal. We will start looking more towards that May 5th or May 1st portal window. Seems like we're going to have a little bit of downtime now as far as transfer portal goes. You can start concentrating on the spring practice. You can start concentrating on these junior days, these juniors coming in. We've already seen several guys come in. We saw the Alabama commitments, Perry Thompson, come in last week. Cole, who was the other guy?
Martavius Collins. Yep.
Both of those guys visit. Walker White came in. Keith talked to him. And
Jeff, can I say one thing, Jeff? You were talking about the Alabama commits. Where was Hugh Freeze the other day?
All over the Alabama commits.
All over him.
Saraland, Foley, Mobile Christian. He went and saw Perry Thompson. Went and saw Sterling Dixon. Went and saw
Christian.
Ryan Mitchell. What's his name?
Ryan Williams, is that it?
Yeah, Ryan Williams. That's what I said.
Ryan Williams.
Ryan
They got a plan.
Yeah.
You know, Hugh's got a plan.
Did we
Or whoever, somebody
calculate
does
how
over
much-
there.
Well, I think more than anything, what it shows you is a guy who's been in the SEC before. He understands what recruiting is like, and specifically what it's like to recruit against guys like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, multiple others that are extremely successful high-level recruiters, top-down recruiters that understand that their presence in a recruitment is as needed as the position coach or the GM, the director of recruiting, whoever else is involved. That if that head coach is not a focal point for that kid, I don't care who you're competing against. You're probably not going to be overly successful, not unless you just blow the competition away with a relationship by that position coach or potentially an offer from whoever your collective is.
Hey, speaking of Walker White, those 2024 quarterbacks, we saw Auburn offer another 2024 quarterback. Was it today? Jake Merklinger from Savannah Day. Was that right? Calvary Day in Savannah, Georgia. Top 100 player. Certainly he's got the offers. I think On Three's got him ranked the number 5 quarterback in the country, the number 63 overall player in the country. 4-star. He's got offers from Tennessee, Florida, Florida State, Michigan State, now Auburn. This is kind of the quarterback recruiting we were expecting with Hugh Freeze, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If I could point out one quick thing, when I interviewed Walker White the other day, who, again, we think is probably their top target, he said, it's quoted in the story, hey, I know they're going to go out and offer other people. They were honest about that. He goes, I understand it. He goes, they can't put everything into one guy and then get left out in the cold, you know? And so he understood. He was going to be the last person surprised by that offer that went out today to Merlinger. But we do think Walker is really connecting with Hugh Freeze on a personal level. I mean, he already liked the fact that Hugh has a great reputation as an offensive mind, that he worked with Malik Willis, Chad Kelly. He liked that Philip Montgomery had offensive success at Tulsa and Baylor, where I believe he coached Robert Griffin III. And so he already liked that. And he knew that Hugh Freeze was a big religious guy. You know, I never can find the right words, but a person
of faith.
Faith is a big deal to him. Okay, it is to some people, it isn't to others, right? It is to him, and it is to Walker White. And he thought they were going to connect. He thought they were going to click, and they did. They did. And he said, I like that he wears that on his sleeve because I do too. So when you've got all the football stuff on your side, and now you have this stuff on your side, it's hard to imagine how Auburn is not going to be a major factor in his recruitment. But that said, there's a lot of great recruiters in the SEC. All right, Jimbo Fisher's had 3 first-round picks at quarterback, none lately, but he's had 3 first-round picks, I believe, at quarterback. You know, Lane Kiffin's doing it. You know,
Nick Saban, Kirby Smart,
and that's right, and then Clemson as well, and also we know Dabo's a man of faith, a strong person of faith too. So that could be an interesting thing to watch there. So you have to cover all your bases, but these are 2 guys that are in the South that know of Auburn, and yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't think I feel like he's within a few years we're going to say he's stacking them at quarterback. It just doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. You know what I mean? And maybe Hank Brown ends up being something better than all the rankings experts thought too. The signee in the 2023 class, but. All eyes are on Walker White right now, but I'm curious to see who else they offer. Prentice Nolan, Aaron Nolan, you mentioned earlier, Jeff, he's going to visit, or one of you mentioned, he's going to visit the next few weeks. I think we'll see what they do there. There'll probably be some other guys emerge. And then we'll see who enters the transfer portal at the quarterback position May 1st, you know?
Hey, looking ahead to that next Saturday's January 28th, Junior Day, I added a guy today right before we started recording, Darius Hayes from Largo, Florida, 2024 4-star linebacker, top 100 overall recruit. He's coming in the number 55 overall recruit, number 33 in the according to On3, the number 3 linebacker in the country. He's coming in. Keith, you've already got a running list on On3. Cameron Coleman, the 4-star receiver from Central, Traveris Banks, the 4-star safety from Tuscaloosa, Jaden Lewis from Anniston, Chance Robinson from Fort Lauderdale, Amon Lane, of course, is coming in. A lot of guys expected to be headlining that Junior Day next Saturday.
Can I just say the guy you just mentioned, Jeff, the linebacker from Largo? I always forget his name. Can you say it one more time?
Darius
Hayes.
I don't know how you got that. That's a hell of a scoop. That guy may be the best player in Tampa Bay. And Auburn, Auburn does. Cadillac Williams was down here recruiting today. Largo, by the way, is a Spelling Bruce. Dexter McCluster, the great running back from Ole Miss, athlete after athlete, year after year coming out of that school. They say this guy's phenomenal. That he's phenomenal. That is, quite frankly, significant that he's visiting. I didn't know he was visiting. That's a great scoop there.
Going to Florida this weekend. Florida this weekend. Auburn next weekend.
That would be the main competition. And people think he's a UF lean, but that if they're getting guys, you wonder Aldridge, a young linebackers coach, is he going to be able to get guys on campus? Well, there's your answer right there. Maybe the single best linebacker in the state of Florida is going to be at Auburn on January 28th. Again, that's significant.
And maybe Sterling Dixon, I believe, the Alabama linebacker commit, who Freeze went and visited on Tuesday, Mobile Christian High School. Did anybody else just not love what Hugh Freeze did on Tuesday in the South Alabama region? He went and saw. He went directly to Alabama's heart and just gave it a little poke with the sharp end of a knife and was like, "Hey."
Even if you don't get him, Jeff, make him work, make him sweat it out. Right.
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely.
He did, and by the way, and if you wanted to, Cole, I cut you off. I'm sorry, I get all excited on these shows. I'm all wound up. If Jeffrey and me, being the sneaky SOBs that we are, if we were running the recruiting department at Auburn, we'd throw some red herrings out there for Bama to chase after too. Now,
yep,
I'd be playing some chess or trying to. I'd be making them sweat on guys that they have no need to sweat on. You know what I mean? But but I thought that's what you got to do. Get to those schools, let them know that you're going to be around.
I definitely make them send a couple of guys late at night to the home of some people just to make sure.
It's kind of the reverse of what Gus Malzahn used to do to Nick Saban in Alabama. I'm going to steal some practice time by giving you this look on the field. In this regard, I'm gonna steal some of your sleep because you're worried about your recruits going to Auburn. It's a little different, right? I'm gonna hammer them. I'm gonna stay on them all day long, and you gotta come back and win them back over before it's over with. Hey, let me add too about Jaden Lewis from Anniston, 4-star guy. He's a 4-star with on 3, and he's a consensus 4-star corner. I don't know, man. Maybe he's the first guy to commit to go along with Amon Lane. He's a guy that he told me February 1st is a date he's looking at for committing, which is very soon. And Auburn, Tennessee, I think those are the top two.
Isn't he supposed to be at Auburn the day before?
He's supposed to be at Auburn
3 days before. He's going to be he's going to be at Auburn on Saturday.
3 days before. I'm sorry.
And then commit 3 days later.
Now he hasn't completely decided on that day, but February seems likely for a possible commit. So, yeah, Auburn's in a good spot there. If you're looking for a guy that might commit, he's a guy.
They're going to be pushing for a couple of commitments out of that first big junior day. Somebody's, if they haven't already committed and they are saying, "Hey, hold on to it. Let's do it after the first junior day."
And it probably doesn't mean anything. I think it's part of it when you get to talking to these guys. But when I put that out about Jaden Lewis having a commit decision right after he's going to be in Auburn, first person that liked it, Sterling Dixon on Twitter.
And that's an interesting. So you're kind of dovetailing into an interesting point for me of how I'm kind of tracking the staff. It's how they're investing their time. Now, look, it's not shying away from big battles, and you've seen that already with some of the prospects they've been visiting and some of the guys they've been hosting. But how they peg those recruitments and who they choose to truly invest their time in. And then how do they use the media to kind of make those announcements to keep that constant buzz that we think that helps a school, specifically when you've got a brand new coaching staff, keeping that constant buzz about Auburn in the media cycle. How does all that play itself out? Seeing how they're investing in Walker White. And this is not a situation like quarterback, you offer a lot, but you only really invest in probably 3-4 guys. And you're trying to land one of those top 3-4. You're trying to lock it down into these are the 3 to 4 guys that we really got a shot with. And we saw the previous staff struggle with that, right, this past year. I mean, they were heavy into the kid from Briarwood Christian. Unfortunately, he was with Clemson very early. You saw us not get a lot of traction. Well, we got some traction with the kid from Memphis, but he ended up going to Ohio State and later Florida State.
Oh, do you,
and then
you
there was
mean,
really
Auburn Glenn?
Brock Glenn. Yeah, Auburn Brock Glenn. And then there was really no backup plan after that. I mean, I think you had Jackson Smolik for a day before he ended up going towards Penn State. There was the kid out of Milton, Florida, Emory Williams, I'm sorry, that ended up staying with Miami. So how they handle Walker White's recruitment, what's the kid's name? Jake Mecklinger, Prentice Nolan, how they handle those guys, how they handle other recruiters, like you said, Cole. Can they take advantage of a large junior day and then smash it in the media by getting a 4-star commitment from another defensive back?
Well,
Are they, are they working things in that direction to keep Auburn in a positive light? I'm really interested to see how this new coaching staff handles it. I think they're going to do well, but that's what I'm going to be tracking.
When Auburn got to Brock Glenn, and I think he was on the radar, but when they really started pushing for him, when they realized, hey, Vizina's not going to work out.
Yeah.
It was real late into the process, at least for a quarterback, because, quarterbacks make decisions pretty quick these days.
Yes.
Like as soon as their senior year cycle goes, they're usually committed going in. They're usually the leaders of the class. They want to get in early so they can be that guy. So Auburn was real behind with that last year, and guys like Walker White, I mean, you don't see them dragging things out too long. They're going to make a decision before too long.
Well, they were and they weren't late with getting to Brock Glenn. I will just tell you that the summer before his junior year, Brock Glenn camped at Auburn, and a request was put into the head coach to come take a look at him, and he had some other things he had to do that day.
Sorry, man.
According to our sources.
That sums up the entire era right there.
Well, I mean, again, it's fact. It's secondhand info, but it's you don't throw that out there if you don't know who your sources are. And Jeffrey and I know the same people here. But anyway, yeah. So and really, they're not even early with Walker White. Like they're sort of with next year. You're going to see the 2025. They just offered a 2025 quarterback in the past week. They're going to be by next fall. They'll have already identified their guys at that point. So they'll be even 3, 4, 5 months ahead of where they are this year. So one thing this guy knows is that one thing Hugh Freeze likes to do is get his hands in there with the QB recruiting. We know that.
Mm-hmm. Going to have a lot. I'm curious to see who all comes in next weekend. We'll be covering that all next week. We'll be back Sunday with the call-in show. Before we go, folks, I know we got to do some how about yous this week.
Yeah.
Oh, Keith, don't look so dejected.
I don't have anybody. My guy's been banned. So.
Did you really? Oh yeah.
I don't think he's ever allowed back.
The curse of Keith. All right, Jhead.
Yeah, I'm going to go with AU Tiger saying that his dad passed this morning.
Oh.
Just wanted to put out my condolences to him, let him know that I'm thinking about you, and give you a how about you, brother. And I hope that that things, get better sooner rather than later. I know that's got to be a really tough deal.
Yep. CP.
Mr. War Eagle. Yep, Mr. War Eagle.
Is that MR or is that MISTR?
It's MR.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's Mr. War Eagle is how he says it.
Okay. How about you?
I do have one. Oh, sorry.
All right, Keith. Oh, God. Who are we going to ban next?
No, I'm going to say Weeg. I'm going to say, back over at my old site, and Jhead, I think, knows who he is. Weegs. W-E-E-G-S was one of the great posters and a great person, too. And, man, he can fly off the handle, though, as good as any of them. That's what I love about him.
My kind of guy.
He will lose it, man. But he just drop in every now and then and provide some laughter. But I've been bugging him for months to join the site. He finally did a few, maybe a month or so ago. So I wanted to get a how about you to him. Great guy.
How about you, Weeks, man? Jhead, I had how about you to AU Tiger ×2, man. I saw that and I want to let him know we'll be thinking about him. Also, how about you to SPF 50, man? All you kids out there, this personal service announcement. See that right there? See that right there? And I got a scoop out of my shoulder. Sunburn. What do you call it? They froze my nose.
Oh man,
I had what do you call it? It's not skin cancer. It's
skin tag.
Yeah.
no, man, not skin tags. Those are gross. I don't know, but the guy froze the stuff off of me. I've had a lot of them. Anyway, stay out of the sun, man. Put some sunblock on. How about you, the Mighty Eagle? How about you, the Barn So Hard? How about you, the Steve Sawbone, throwing us some big compliments. Appreciate you, Steve. How about you, the HSV Huntsville Tiger? Quality poster always has been. How about you, the Jeremy Redding? Damn good poster. How about you, the Bo Hog? Bo Hog, not Bo Hog. It's HOG. It's Hog.
Yeah.
Hog.
Hog.
How about you, the B1 Tiger? How about you, the 54 AU Exterminator? I think he wanted to have a beer with Keith.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, the Z Money NC? No, of course not. It was me. How about you, the Z Money NC? How about you, the Mr. War Eagle? We've already said him. And I'm going to give Mr. Weeks. How about you, too, man? Welcome aboard, Weeks. Hope to see you posting. And hope you don't get banned.
He will.
Yeah, he will. Okay.
He will. No, he's a great guy. He just,
He
loses it once in a while.
Yeah, okay. All right. Hey, you know what? How about you to honk if you coach for Bama? I gave him a 2-day ban the other day, but it was only a 2-day ban. Anybody else probably would have gotten zapped. But he came back. He's good. But how about you to honk? All right, folks. That's good. Hey, we're going to be all over this junior day stuff. Transfer portal's taking a back seat. We're going to be looking at basketball recruiting moving forward. We got some announcements coming up with Jhead Pettiford, LeBaron Filan. Both of those guys are going to be announcing in the next few weeks. Auburn is certainly major factors in both of their recruitments. I'm going to stop short of predicting both of those guys to Auburn, but I hope to have a better feel on them in the next few days. I'll certainly be putting out some feelers as we draw closer. I think February the 1st for Pettiford, and I think Filan is not too far after that. So everybody stay tuned, man. I hope everybody sticks around for Sunday's call-in show. If you haven't liked or subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do. Please do. Just hit that subscribe button. It's free. And hit that notifications. You'll know when all of our clips get uploaded, and you can watch them there. Hey, appreciate everybody, man. For Jhead, for Keith, for Pink, for Zach in the back, I'm Jeffrey Lee, man. Y'all stay out of the left lane. See ya.